Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? Once again, we are live. And I know a few of y'all may be like, we, BOBM Publishing, the LLC. We are a full service publishing company that does provide services for authors, new, existing authors, to help bring your books to complete fruition. Now, who am I? My name is Ray Destin Jr. I am the founder and CEO of BOBM Publishing. Um, and once again, today is special, right? And it's not just special because, like, I'm doing this video for you guys. Nah, it's special because this content is something that needs to get out there, to help a lot of you understand, because um, it's just the content of what we get. We run into so many people that come to us and say, "Hey, I got a story. I got a story." That's great that you have a story. Now, let me tell you how to do it and do it right. Okay. So as you know, the credentials for me sitting here before you is simple. Like I said, BOBM Publishing is the brainchild, is the company that I founded. Not even at the best of times, even at the lowest times, but because we were diligent with it, we now have over 400 number one bestsellers on Amazon, 411 to be exact, 411 Amazon number one best-selling authors. Somebody asked me in a Nastygram, you guys boast about all these people that you published, but you don't have it on your website. That's right, because it's not about us. If you follow us on social media, you'll be able to see all of them, and they all have such amazing and such powerful stories. Now, the next thing, what are we talking about today? Because I'm kind of rambling, I want to get straight into it. We're talking about how to write an autobiography that has maximum impact. And why did we choose this topic today? I chose this topic because it's something that hits my heart, and it hits my heart heavy, because like I said, I run into so many amazing people with such powerful stories. Some of the stories that are coming are even more amazing than the ones that we've already published. As they say, the best is yet to come. I can't talk on all the details because they're still in the works, like this close to being done. But what I see is the same trend in just about every book that we put out when it comes to an autobiography. So, what I want to do is help you as a new author, who's working on it, because you've been saying the same thing for the past year, the past 5 years, the past 10 years. Oh man, God put this on my heart to write this book. I got to get it out. I just don't know how. I got a powerful story. Like I've been through this, and this, and I overcame it, and I don't look like what I've been through. Right? That's a lot of people's stories, but it's also in the way that you tell it that makes it more compelling and impactful for those that you were designed to, that you went through it for. One thing I'll say, even before I get started, for those of you who have been sitting on the fence and you've been thinking about writing your book, is this: what you lived through and what you are proud to say, I went through that back in the day and it was so emotional for me, and it changed who I was. Somebody else is still living it. Somebody else is still living through poverty. Somebody else is still living through abuse. Somebody else is still living through, unfortunately, molestation. Somebody else is still living through, learning how to become their best selves. And they're sitting in that dark place while you get a chance to live in the light. Whereas if you just told your story and told it properly so that they could hear you, they'd be able to walk out of that story too. That's why I'm so passionate about what it is that I do. I'm so passionate because I want to see people help other people who help other people, and eventually one candle lights the entire world. So let's go. How do you write your biography, in such a way that it impacts others? Right. One of the first things, and I'm just gonna list them, and then I'm gonna come back to it, and I may even have more points as we go on, because this one is such a hot topic. It's such a powerful one, that if everybody knew how to write their story properly, then there would be way more impact in the world. One of the first things is be genuine. Be genuine in your story. Don't try to make yourself seem like You've done amazing things that you haven't done. Tell your story. Your story is amazing just the way that it is. And there's a reason. We'll jump into that. Um, Share the details. Don't just give the chronological order of your story. Share the details, and we'll touch on that in a moment. Um, Leave some key points, right? They say success leaves clues. Your story has clues along the way. Leave some key points for those who are coming behind you to go back and say, you know what? If they did this and these are the simple steps, I could probably do it too. Again, you want to help people that are in their dark place so that they can walk out of that dark place into the light that they should be living in. Feel the story is the next one. Feel the story. And this is one that which is this is one of the reasons that so many people take their books, these amazing stories that they have, they take their books and they put it on the shelf because they're scared to relive what they went through. They're scared to feel every moment, every gut wrenching emotion that they went through. You got to feel that thing, right? Ask others for the recap that was there with you. Some people may have seen you go through some things and you only saw it as, I did this and I did that. But the way that they saw it is magical. The way that they saw it was something out of the ordinary. You don't know because you don't know what the picture looks like because you're constantly sitting in the frame. Get yourself out of the frame and ask others for their input. See what they saw. Um, and then there's something I have for each of you that are watching to kind of help you out. Just to charge for you. So let's go back through this and let's start from the beginning, right? Um, when I read stories from the authors that we work with, one of the most beautiful things I love about each one of these stories is that they're genuine. They are genuinely telling the story because they've lived it. They lived through it. They lived in this moment, whether it was good, whether it was bad, whether it was just, but they're genuine. When you genuinely tell the story of how you overcame a situation, there's certain points that you're going to want to avoid. And then there's other things that you're going to want to magnify. Instead of I scored 7 points in a basketball game, and it was the first game of the year. It becomes, I scored 50 points in the state championship, and nobody has ever done it since. You don't have to make the story into something that it's not, because there were key things inside of that story that you experienced. There was what led up to the moment that other people didn't know about. There was the dark place that you had to go through that nobody knew about except for you and the select few in your circle that was there to help protect you through that, to pray with you through that, to listen when you had those emotions. There were some people that saw you, and I still hear from people, and this is part of my story, going back and just being genuine. A lot of people, when I talk about the youth program that we had in Austin, we did a lot of work in Austin and in surrounding areas. What most people don't know, or what most people saw, was, oh, well, you were at these parks, you were at these rec centers, and then you went over to schools. And what you didn't see was, once I went over to the schools, one of the schools, the bookkeeper continued to stall me out on the payment that was due. This was the only way that I was actually providing for myself at the point. I ended up losing my vehicle. So I still had to find a way to get to these places on a consistent basis, right? Most people don't see that part of it. How a 30-minute drive in both directions turned into a 2.5-hour bus ride in both directions. but due to persistence and consistency, it was still something that I was able to make happen. This is how your story looks a lot of times. A lot of times there are things that you've done, there are places that you've been, there are things that you had to overcome that only you know about. Tell your genuine story. Tell the genuine story. You don't have to make yourself into some type of superhero. Tell the genuine story, because your genuine story is better than most people's made up realities, right? Let that one marinate in your guts for a second, right? Next thing is, and this is the flip side of it. For those of you who have actually done something amazing, you've actually done some great things. You've been in this moment where you've lived through some things, and you've consistently been a high achiever. And this, I'm speaking to somebody specific on this one. Um, you 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 don't remember the facts in a certain way of how amazing it was, because it's just part of your chronology, right? And I hope I'm saying that word. If I'm not, if it's part of your chronological order, right? These were the things that you did, but you don't remember how amazing it was because it's just an average day for you. But you have to remember something. Your average is somebody else's dream. And on the flip side, what you experience on a daily basis, somebody else right now is praying for it. Somebody else right now is asking, how can I be this person who is who is um who is getting tenured? So somebody who's starting an organization, somebody who has impacted lives, somebody who has spoke before thousands, somebody who has started a coaching program. You don't know how amazing you are, because while you were being the first of many to come, you were still the first. You were the one that laid that bridge for others to cross, right? And so instead of just going into the dates, I want you to go back through not just the dates of the events that happened, but I want you to go through the dates of what actually happened, while also reliving those moments. Because when you begin to relive those moments, what happens is that now you start to think about the things that you actually went through. You start to think about the emotions. You start to think about the rejection that you had to face. Because a lot of times when you're the first doing anything, there are a lot more storms and obstacles. And the people that are coming behind you, you're sitting back saying, well, I'm not going to tell you the obstacles because I don't want you to get scared. But that's exactly what the person coming behind you needs, right? If you are beginning to share those details, you're actually helping others to get past their fears. They want to know what's coming in advance. Some people can take the fact that, hey, guess what? When you start your own publishing company, you're going to have people that try to put in fraudulent claims against you. You're going to have people that say that they sold more books than they did. You're going to have people that will not follow the instructions. That's part of being the first of doing something. You're paving the way. But at the same time, here's the blessings. Because you didn't let one storm stop you, you were able to accomplish so much more than what people were able to see. So I want you, for those of you who have been high achievers, who have been doing things at a high level, I want you to actually go back and share the details, not just the dates, not just the order, not just this was an achievement. Share those actual details. How did you get to this point? How did you go from point A to point B? What was it like? What were the obstacles that were in your way? What was the even the environment? What was the environment like? Um, talk about the atmosphere of the room, the atmosphere of your environment, right? What I'm going to do, as y'all know, I got to take care of the company that take care of those that take care of me. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. Be right back with y'all probably in about 2 and 2.
Experience with BOBM has been the most outstanding experience I've ever experienced in my life. I'm gonna try to get through this without emotionally breaking down. When I didn't see a way, BOBM, Sugar Ray Destin, saw a way for me to be able to put everything that was inside of me out into and onto paper to where I was able to see something good that I didn't think was no good come out. When I look at everything that BOBM that I've learned that's been deposited into me, I realized that everything that I thought was of no good, that meant nothing to me, it was something. BOBM helped me to connect with myself in a powerful way to where I'm able to birth out things to where I want to be able to help people. I want to see people grow. I want to see people develop. I want to see people that think things that's impossible can be possible. I found that through BOBM when I didn't even see a way, but BOBM saw a way.
Hey man, listen, I love that lady to life, Miss Monica Nisi Earl Washington. Um, as she continues to elevate, more people are learning who Monica Earl Washington is. But those that know her and love her call her Miss Nisi, and we definitely love Miss Nisi because she is doing more on a consistent basis just to build herself, build her business. And like she said, when we first met, she was in a very dark place, and now she's living her life like it's golden, right? Not to take from a musician, but she really is living her life, living her best life at this point. And I'm so proud of her. Now she's a 5-time #1 best-selling author. When she first came in, she was scared to get her story. She knew she wanted to get her story out there, but she didn't know how. So let's go, Miss Nisa. Keep rocking, right? Next on this, as we're going through the key points to help you make your biography more powerful. We've already talked about you have to be genuine. We've already talked about sharing the details, not just the chronological order. The next thing that I want you to do is, as we talk about sharing these details along the same lines, the same vein, is feel that story, right? You have to feel your story. You got to go back and actually relive some of those moments in your head, get into the fullness of it and experience what you actually went through, because then it gives you a chance to write it from a place of truth. A lot of times we want it to be easy. And let me say this while I'm going on and on. Um, if you're watching, go ahead and do me a favor and drop some comments in there, some things that you want to hear. If something is touching you, then definitely let me know. Um, I love viewers, but I also love those comments as well. And if you come back and watch it later, also go ahead and leave those comments so that we know where we're going with this, if this is impacting you. Now, let's get back into it. When we talk about feeling the story, a lot of times people try to write from a place of they want it to sound really, really good. That's great. But I want you to experience the story. When you start talking about feeling, I'm talking about descriptive writing. Descriptive writing is going into your senses: touch, taste, sound. I always get lost on these, right? You know the five senses, but touch, taste, sound, sight, smell. What does it feel like? What are the physical elements that you can touch? Also, what were the emotions that you felt that touch? Taste. If you are talking about a situation and you remember a certain meal that took place, or you remember it was raining and raindrops hit your lips and you could taste the water. um the sound. what were the sounds of the environment? What were people talking about? What were conversations that you were having with individuals that were involved in the story? Smell. And y'all gotta forgive me when I go into the five senses. I live it, so I don't really necessarily just think about it like that. The smell. What were the smells of the environment? If you were part of a historical riot, then what were the smells? I know if you think about a day like New Year's Eve or the 4th of July, you can actually smell the smoke from those firecrackers that are popping everywhere. So if you are in a riot scene, then you could probably at one point when everything began, the smells are going to be different than the smells that are happening later. Again, the same thing with the sounds. If an event starts off, usually a big event starts off really quiet and you can hear people rustling and rambling to and fro throughout the day. But when it finally gets to the end of it, then that's when people begin to actually you'll hear the sounds of a crowd. You'll hear the complete everybody's in unison, or you'll hear conversations over here, you'll hear conversations over there. What were those conversations that were going on that you heard? And sight. What did you see? This is one of the most important, because if you tell stories with your eyes, people are visual, right? That's the reason that more people enjoy going and watch movies. There are some movies that have been remade over and over and over again because people enjoy watching a story of triumph. People enjoy watching an action movie. People enjoy watching comedy. There's certain things about it that your eyes tell the story. And when you allow your eyes to tell the story, or you allow your eyes to experience it, then it sends those triggers to every other part of your body, because you see something and it's told in a way that it's visually stimulating. You can also feel it. You can also hear it. You can also, it almost feels like you can touch it. You can smell the environment. Everything about that is part of those senses. And the more you tap into those senses, and you don't just tell it from a place of this happened versus that happened. Now you start telling it from when this was going on, I was experiencing this mood and this happened to me. But you get into the small details. There's a difference between saying I went to the store, and as I was walking to the store, I could smell the fresh dew coming off the blades of grass while my feet hit the sidewalk. I could hear the sounds of my steel-toed boots as they were stomping through the environment. In the distance, there was a dog barking, and I could tell that it was a larger dog that was still on the chain because of the gruffness, and you could hear the chains rattling as the dog got closer to the fence. I could see the red Corvette, let's say red 65 Corvette with the top down, passing as the music played, and there was the Ozzy Brothers playing Summer Breeze in the background. These are things. There's a very different interpretation of that story when you actually feel it, as opposed to you just tell it. Now, when it comes down to feeling the story, talk about the emotions that happen during certain moments of the event. Were you were you scared? Were you frightened? Were you excited? Were you in an extreme, in a place of doubt? Was there certain things going on physically in your body that your stomach was turning? You felt like there were butterflies because this was an important moment in your life, and you knew that it would change the course of history for others. As you tell your story, go back and relive it. A lot of people that have been through domestic violence situations, if you tell it from a place of again, It may be a little bit graphic, so this may be a trigger for some. Hopefully, it's not. But if you tell the story of, I was abused, and then you just leave it right there. There's so much that happens. There's different types of abuse. As you're talking about the abuse, while I was abused, this person, and fill in the events of what happened during that moment. Now, in those situations, you do want to change the names of the people that you are putting out there. And the only reason that you're changing that name, not so that you're protecting them, but you also want to protect yourself in that situation. Two things happen in life. One, people grow. So those same people who were probably horrible at one point in your life is no longer horrible in this phase of their life. So you want to give people the same chance to grow that you've had over your lifetime. The other thing is, if that person sees their name in your book, because people will come back to them and say, hey, I heard such and such said that you did this and that, and I can't believe it. And well, guess what? Now they have a chance to take you to court for defamation of character. So you want to be sure that you are covering yourself as an author and as a business, because you are actually walking into the light of being a full-blown business. Now, make sure that your story is something that people can feel. If you're talking about the thrill of victory, and you're talking about something that you did, again, don't just talk about the good thing. Don't just talk about the highlights. Share those down moments that took you to this place of victory, because when you begin to share those down moments, what happens is that people are now able to walk into the thing that you went through. They're able to experience it. For those of you who have seen the movie The Pursuit of Happiness, that was a great movie that talks about Chris Gardner and his son, and how he went through the lowest point in his life. He and his son were homeless for a spell, and finally he got this stock position, and now he owns a financial firm. Well, that's all true, but his story was so well written that only about that much of the book, less than 2 or 3 chapters in the book, are what was actually turned into a movie. But because of the way that he wrote it, we were able to feel it and experience it, right? If you've ever seen the movie, you'll never forget the scene of him with his son and the dinosaurs, right? If you don't know what I mean, you got to go back and watch that movie. You'll never forget that scene of him actually experiencing victory. You'll never forget that. You'll never forget some of those scenes in the hotel that where he had to get himself ready for the next day. You'll never forget that rushing to and fro, and how he had to get things done within a certain time period, because he made it clear that it wasn't easy. And that's the thing that most people miss, is that people want to make their stories look like, oh, I just did this and it was easy. No, relive and feel the moment, so that the person who's coming behind you has a chance to feel what it is that you felt, experience the triumphs, the turmoil, the obstacles. And when they get to that point, they understand how they can make it too, right? You'll hear me say that a lot. There's a lot of people that are going through a lot of things. That's why we write our biographies. It's not for us. Next thing is, I want you to actually not feel the story, but drop some key points for learning. Drop some key points for learning. This is when you start talking about the business side of it. When you start talking about how you're going to turn your story into money, right? Because when you put key points in there, what you're doing is you actually go from just a storyteller to an educator. You go from a storyteller to an educator. And the great thing about being a storyteller is that facts tell, stories sell. But when you go to the point of being an educator, what happens is now you give people a chance to learn for themselves from your specific story. So when you give people a chance to learn from your story and they get a chance to experience it, it's just like the story of Hansel and Gretel, right? And I know y'all are like Hansel and Gretel. Yeah, Hansel and Gretel. The reason, if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't read that story in a long, long time, but if I'm not mistaken, the reason that they were able to get back to safety is because they left breadcrumbs along the trip. And that's what success is all about. Success leaves clues. And if you leave enough clues, then there'll be so many more people that can follow you along this journey, not just for you, but also for themselves. So you want to, at as you're telling your story, have some key points in there, have some key nuggets, some key takeaways, because people are going to take away other things as well. But there's something that you're trying to get across to them that allows them to see their way out. That in itself, those key points, is a whole nother chapter, a whole nother topic. I'm not going to talk about it on here, but just know that those key points actually create opportunities for other opportunities, right? So, um, listen, I got to go get some water. I've been talking, I've been rambling, and I still got two more amazing things to touch on, at least two more things to touch on when it comes down to your autobiography. But as I always say, I got to make sure that I'm taking care of the company that takes care of me. So I'll be back with you all in about 2 and 2. Hey, everybody. My name is Sugar Ray Destin Jr. I'm the founder and CEO of BOBM Publishing. We've helped over 400 new beginners become best-selling authors, not just best-selling authors, number one best-selling authors. And so a lot of times we hear from people that haven't written their book or people that have already written their book and the buzz is gone. How do I keep this buzz going? Or how do I write my first book? Well, we've listened, we've heard you, we've heard you, and we've taken the time to go back and create a university specifically for authors. It's called Bestseller University. The enrollment is opening up on March 1st. So less than 2 weeks from now, you'll be able to enroll in Bestseller University. Now, is this done for you, publishing? No, this is all information that you can do at your own pace. Self-paced courses that teach you how to write a book, how to market the book. And if you want that group or one-on-one feel, we have some additional courses that are coming. We're bringing back our flagship course, the Business of Books Mastermind, which helped so many people to understand how to brand, how to market, how to build an audience, and the opportunities that come from your book. So this is exclusively for you. If you've been sitting on the couch and you've been waiting on that opportunity to get your book out there, get it in front of the right people and maximize those opportunities, Bestseller University is for you. There will be an investment for it, but once again, most of the courses in Bestseller University are self-paced. We want you to succeed as new authors because, believe it or not, we didn't start with 400 number one best-selling authors. We started with a dream. We started with a plan. We started with fear in our hearts, just like you started. And from authors who've been there and done it to now teaching you the strings and the ropes so that you don't have to go through the years and the months and the days and the weeks of trying to figure it out for yourself. We put it all together for you in one platform so that you can go in for yourself and a self-paced time. And if you decide that you want to publish on your own, by all means, the guides will be there. If you decide that you want to work with BOBM Publishing, by all means, you'll have access to our exclusive Facebook group, Bestseller University. But all we ask is that you take a look and take it serious. This is your opportunity to take it to the next level. Don't sleep on yourself. And remember, everybody has a story. It's time to write yours. We love you guys. and look forward to seeing you inside of Bestseller University. All right. Listen, we are back, and I appreciate you all that's here. As one of my favorite musical artists, Jay-Z, Sean Carter loves to say, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Right. So, as we're talking about maximizing your biography, or writing a biography that maximizes the impact, one of the things that, or not one of the things, the few things that we've already touched on is being genuine in your story, sharing the details, not just the chronological order. Feel that story, feel the emotions, relive it, experience it all over again. And then the last was sharing key points for learning. I'm actually going to expand on the key points for learning, because I said I want to make sure that you all gather where we're going. When we talk about maximum impact, right? As you are writing this biography and you're sharing those key points, what that allows you to do is take those key points for potential speaking engagements, take those key points for potential coaching opportunities. You may even turn those key points into a workbook to go along with your actual book. And I've had a few people that have actually listened when I said this many times, because I say it all the time. Every book needs a workbook, especially if you're writing a book of nonfiction. And so, the last book that we did, the winning mindset, has a workbook to go along with it. The book, shout out to Shayla Renee and her husband, my brother JP3. They wrote an amazing book. He Almost Stole My Life. And not only did she tell her story, but she put a workbook along with it that has a huge, it has a great ability to impact others that are coming behind, because when you get that book, you get one feel. When you get the workbook, you're actually able to work through it. Another book, the first book that I ever wrote, I followed my blueprint to the T, and that was Claim Your Destiny. Because I had the book and the workbook, that allowed me to start a youth program that was based on the information locked inside of the workbook, right? So each part of your story allows you to have key points, right? If you're talking about escaping a domestic violence situation, then obviously those key points from your story may be, what were you experiencing? What was do a mental health check inside of the book. Don't claim to be a mental health specialist, because trust me, I know a few mental health specialists, and I've also seen a few people that are cashing in on the hot topic of mental health that have no credentials, no degrees, and it's truly unfair, because you're steering people in the wrong direction. That's just my vent. I love those who are in the field, and I ask that everybody that's not in the field actually take a look into what it takes to become licensed and get those degrees. If you're going to truly help people, do it from a place of your truth, right? Also, if you are talking about getting out of it, provide some resources. Part of your autobiography can include resources. What were some of the people that you called? Maybe you called a specific hotline. Maybe you had to go through the foster care system. Maybe you had to go through. Maybe you were in prison and you got out of prison. What was it like to be there, and what were the resources that helped you to get out? Was there free legal counsel? Was there a book of law that you were able to pull into? If you were an investor, and I was watching a video this morning on the Wall Street Trapper, and he talked about how he changed his life, because while he was in prison, somebody told him, you're fighting a battle that you can't win because you keep doing the same things over and over again. And he actually guided him in the direction to start reading and to start learning and start investing so that he could actually break it down in a way that was more relatable to those who didn't grow up in certain environments, to those who actually came from different environments. Now, if that is you, when you're writing your story, then what you need to do is leave those breadcrumbs. Those key points become key points that are good at the end of your chapter, but also better if you turn it into a workbook, even better if you turn it into a coaching program. And if you are able to get booked for speaking engagements, you already have your topics right there because you've lived it. And now you're not having to go and make something new because you're talking about things that you've already done. You get paid for your experience, right? The one question I ask every author as we're working on their books is what would make people trust you? What would make people trust your brand? And for those of you who are coming behind, if you're watching this video, you're going to get the answer. Life experience. I lived it. I lived it. I didn't get it from a book. I am the book. Understand that. And let that one be your story as well. Let's keep going. The next thing that I want you to do as you're writing your biography is ask others who were there for their input, because it's amazing. I love my family, right? I love my parents especially. They wrote the foreword for the winning mindset. And so as I asked them to write the foreword, they shared their version of the life that I've lived. They talked about how they talked about some of my strengths. And believe me, even as we were writing this book called The Winning Mindset, I was going through one of the most difficult times in my life. Most people still do not know about this particular season in my life because all you see is what I allow most people to see. And so when I read the words that they had written to enter into the book, tears began to flow. I honestly had tears because I'm sitting there, and when you live a certain moment, all you see is what you lived. And it's not necessarily amazing to you, but the honest reality is you're living someone else's dream. And I can't stress this enough, that most of us only see life through our perspective. Ask those people around you. Ask those people that maybe you used to work with. Ask the people that maybe you went to school with. Ask the people that were around that only saw the outside events that were happening and how you were being blessed in a certain season, how you lived through a certain season, how maybe they saw you as a kid and you were the one catching the bus and didn't have the nicest clothes. Ask them what it was like. What was it like watching me as this person? Because what they're going to do is trigger so many different emotions, and they're going to give you different versions of the story that you lived. And the honest truth is, if you only tell it from your version, you may be missing someone who's sitting on the sideline who needs to know how powerful your story is. Because again, what you see as reality is amazing to someone else, right? When I first started speaking, I didn't see my story as amazing. I didn't see the fact that I took an organization literally out of a box that just had history, and now after let me not say now, after setting up a table, and for those that were there, you can vouch for it. Every day, Monday through Friday, in Jester, this was the routine. Every day during the time that the tables were supposed to be set up, I set up a table. And the reason that I set that table up Monday through Friday is because I needed to catch everybody that was walking by. I needed to catch the freshmen, the sophomores, the juniors, the seniors, anybody that was able to help and that brought a special set of skills. I needed them to know that this organization was back. because it was an organization that had been very powerful in the 80s. This was now 1998. 1998, I'm setting up a table daily from January until December to get this out here. And it actually went beyond December. I want to say into, it went beyond December. Now, for most people, they don't know that story. They don't know that it took, when I said us, I meant me a lot of times. And eventually that organization grew to over 30 members. And when it grew to over 30 members, I was able to appoint officers that were in different positions. And a lot of those officers are doing extremely well in life now. They were leaders back then, and they're even more phenomenal as leaders now in this version of their life, right? But to me, that was just normal. That was something that had to be done, right? I didn't see that. So what was I telling? I was telling the story of the two most phenomenal people at that point, or the two most phenomenal stories that I could think of. And that was my sister and my cousin. Now, when I say that their stories were phenomenal, it was because of where we came from. My sister came from the same house that I came from. My parents did an amazing job. Salute, right? Raised two very powerful, successful human beings. And so, but my sister's story was she started off running track. And I love telling this version of the story because she always sees it different. She's like, yeah, I just ran track and eventually, like, I just kept going. That's her story. But the story that I know is my sister started off when she was probably, I don't remember anything before the age of 9 because I'm 9 years younger than my sister, right? But what I did see was my sister started running track. And when she first started on the track, she wasn't the fastest out there. She would actually lose a lot of those races in the very beginning. And when she lost those races, what would end up happening is that she would come home and she was down and depressed with herself. She wasn't very motivated, but she stuck with it. She stuck with it to the point that she started going to the weight room. She actually had a great coach in middle school that started giving her more instruction. Had been an Olympian. I think she had been an Olympian herself and had actually coached another Olympian in a different sport. This is what an amazing coach will do, right? Carol Middleton. Now, my sister stayed out there on the track. She stayed in the gym. And by the time she was in high school, she started winning all of those races. So when she started winning all of those races, what happens is now she took her team to state. The 2 years that she was in high school, because she was only in high school 9th, 10th, or 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And 12th grade, she couldn't run because we'll get to that part. But every race that she ran, I was the kid on the sidelines. I was that annoying little kid that I was that annoying little kid. If anybody was in the stands when my sister was running, I was the one that was like, watch this, my sister about to win this race. And I'm running on the side of the race in the stands, running side by side. I don't think I was running side by side, but that's my story and I'm sticking with it, right? I was running alongside of the race, watching as my sister goes from this, she just goes into this fierce mode, and you could just see her kind of black out. And by the end of the race, she was probably 10 yards or 10 meters at least ahead of everybody that she was running against. There wasn't anybody that can really compete with her, right? And here's something that's even more amazing. My sister wore glasses. And if you've ever seen the glasses that my sister wore, she would take those off before the race. So she couldn't see anything outside of those lines. It was like a blur. So she had to focus strictly on staying inside of those lines so that she didn't get disqualified. But she won those races. Now, when it came down to her senior year in high school, in order for her to graduate on time, she had to transfer to a different school. She could not run with the other school because of the rule. If you run for one district, or if you compete as an athlete for one district in high school and you transfer to another school in that district, you have to sit out a year. Now, my sister had to sit out her entire senior year. But what did she do? She ran against professionals. She ran against college athletes. She ran against whoever she could. And that's how she got better. She continued to get better. She ended up getting a scholarship and was recruited as the number one recruit out of Houston, Texas. Actually, the number one recruit in the nation the year that she came out. She went to the University of Texas at Austin, became a 23-time All-American at the University of Texas at Austin, which is now the most winningest NCAA athlete ever. Was recently inducted into the College Track and Field Hall of Fame. Got another Hall of Fame that's coming up, and so many others that I can count. Two-time Olympic gold medalist. Would have been four-time. That's a different story, right? Me and my sister always joke about the other two. But here is what happens. I didn't have a story that I saw as amazing. So I would always share her story. I would always share my cousin's story. And the reason being, because if you know someone's story and you know what they've been through, you fall in love with that story. And not only that, but there are so many people who can relate to that part of the story that you miss it. You have to ask other people about your specific story so that they can share with you what they've seen. A lot of times, just by asking them what they remember in your story, it'll actually motivate you, because you'll find out how motivating it actually was to them as well, right? Listen, once again, I know y'all are like, man, he's been on commercial after commercial after. Yeah, I have, because I got to take care of the company that takes care of me, and I want to give a quick shout out to BOBM Publishing, doing amazing work, still putting out number one bestseller after number one bestseller. One of my designers, love him to death. Every time we used to hit number one with the book, he would post in our group chat, the DJ Khaled, and another one, right? Listen, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in about 2 and 2. And I got something really powerful that you need to hear right after this.
Man, working with Suge and his party or his team, that it's just been a great experience. I'm a former athlete, so I've dealt with teams my whole entire life. And when you have a team and you have a leader, you can't have anything but success. So Suge has been a phenomenal leader, and he's led all of these other authors to the promised land, or to winning, to the championship, whatever you want to, coin the phrase. He's helped all of us. He's led us to that number one status. And I know this book will probably be number one as well. And that's what a leader does. He leads everyone else to the promised land, to that ship. So Suge and his team has led all of us to number one. And, I look forward to continuing our relationship with, these books, and I'm bringing other people in because I know that's my guy.
Hey, listen, if you haven't, check that young man out. I call him my brother from another mother. We are actually 5 years to the date apart. Reggie Rusk, he former NFL football player, and now consistent entrepreneur. I ain't gonna say serial entrepreneur. I'm gonna say consistent entrepreneur, because he has been so consistent with the things that he's done. And he has an amazing program. If anybody is in the Houston area, in the Texas City, in the Galveston County area, check him out. He has the Mamba Mentality 7-on-7 series. and stay recruited. Next level is his brand. Listen, when I tell you he's doing amazing work in the community, he is doing amazing work in the community. Now, this last part, as we've been talking about, the things to make your biography more powerful. This next part is so important, right? And this is really my charge to you. This is my charge to you. A lot of people, and I was reminded of it. I was watching the movie Harriet about Harriet Tubman last night, and I'm just sitting there, and the movie is amazing. Like how she would consistently, like how she escaped, and then how she consistently went back for others. She went back for others. She went back for others. And then there was a time when there were some people who, not some people, they actually had the Reform Act, where if slavers could actually go north and capture their ex-slaves. If they found their ex-slaves, then they could bring them back to slavery, right? Which is really horrible. Not to say that slavery wasn't horrible, but to give people the permission to bring somebody back into it after they've lived free, that's tragic. I couldn't imagine, but then again, I do imagine it. I do understand it, right? And so when they begin to put deeper laws and restrictions on it, the anti-slavery committee was beginning to kind of get soft, and they weren't working as hard to go back in and bring those captured slaves back out, or bring those slaves to freedom. And so Harriet was in the middle of the meeting with everybody, and everybody's they're talking, and they're thinking, and she said, listen, and I'm just paraphrasing. I'm not going word for word on this one, but she said, you all have gotten soft. She said, yeah, it's going to be difficult. Yeah, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be risks that we're taking. But these people are actually still living it. They're still living in slavery. You don't know what it smells like to have backs bruised and see a child that's beaten for not working, that doesn't even know what work is. You have no idea what it's like to see a child just going through things, right? And she said, that's because you're too far removed. She said, you're living in these nice houses, you're living in these nice places, and you've forgotten what it feels like, because some of those people were actually ex-slaves. They had escaped to their freedom. They had bought their freedom. And she said, you forgot what it feels like. You don't know what it feels like, but I do. She said, and because I do, I'm willing to take those risks. I'm willing to go back for others. I'm willing to help those who are coming behind me. And that's my charge to you. You lived your experience. If you've overcome something that was horrific in your life, you owe it to the person who's still living it to get that story out there, because while you're in a much better place, you're living in a fancier environment, you're now, you've escaped from it, so you're mentally in a great place. Somebody else is still going through their daily hell while you are experiencing joy. And a lot of times we don't have our story for ourselves. We don't live those stories for ourselves. We live them so that we can go back to tell others. We can go back to help others, right? They say that God gives his battles to his strongest soldiers. And believe it or not, you are included in that number. If you've been through anything and you've already lived through something that was horrific, you've achieved something great, You owe it to the ones that are coming behind you to actually give them a blueprint. Share your story. Tell them how you got over. Because a lot of times people do not see a way out of their darkness because they're still stuck in the middle of it, right? If you aren't willing to share your story with others because you're scared that people will judge you, let me tell you something. People are going to judge you regardless. People are going to judge you because you wear suits. I still get talked about from friends and family. Oh man, you wear a suit all the time. There's a nickname. I'll share one of the lighter nicknames. College boy, right? Um, you look like you because they're going to talk about you because you talk funny. Guess what? Everybody has an accent. You just don't hear yours because you're still in your 6 block radius of where you stay. There's people from Louisiana that you can hear a distinct accent. There's people from New York. You can hear a distinct accent. There are people from Texas. You can hear a distinct accent. I can tell you somebody that's from Baltimore, somebody that's from Philadelphia, or somebody that's from New York by listening to the sounds of their accent. Whereas to the untrained ear, they just hear somebody who's from up north if you're down in the South. I can tell you the difference between somebody who lives in Atlanta, somebody who lives in Texas, and somebody who lives in Florida, and somebody who lives in Alabama by the way that they talk, right? You can tell the difference between somebody who's in Australia and somebody who's in the UK because, again, the accents that they have. People will talk about you for whatever reason. That's what people do. They don't have, if people don't have something that captures their attention, that keeps their minds flowing, you become the object of their attraction. Enjoy the attention and keep moving forward. But remember, your story wasn't given to you just so that you can write a story and get it out. Your story was given to you because your story is going to impact somebody else's life who's living it today, who's living it tomorrow, who's living it 5, 10 years from now. If you write it from a genuine place and you write it in such a way that they can hear you. Stop trying to write above your level and write to, if you're writing it with extremely big words in there, it's going to turn people off. Just because you have certain degrees, dumb that down for a second and realize there's somebody who's still where you started that's looking for the answers to get to where you are. Your story was given to you for a reason, and your story is powerful. Your story is more powerful than you could possibly imagine because it's not only affecting you, but it's affecting your family. It's affecting your friends. It's teaching somebody else how to believe in themselves because they see you walking in your power and walking in your royalty. Continue walking in it. But remember, this is your story and this is your opportunity to help someone else. Listen, I love each and every one of y'all to the moon and beyond. I love y'all to life. And until next week, my name is Sugar Ray Destin Jr. I'm the founder and CEO of BOBM Publishing. If you haven't written your story and you're ready to get it out there, go ahead and scan that QR code that's sitting right there. So let's set up that discovery call and get you moving. Your story is powerful and it's more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Stop letting people that haven't done it talk you out of it. And if they try to talk you out of it, send them to me. I'm just going to smile on that one. Listen, I love y'all to life. Until next time.